What happens when debt can't be repaid, whether it's for an individual or a business or even an entire country? When debts pile up beyond the ability to pay them back, deals get made. Sometimes it's, I can't pay you anything, so you get nothing. And other times, it's, I'll pay you back eventually, but on different terms. But what happens when we zoom out and look at a global debt, the US national debt? There's no renegotiating that. There's no more kicking the can down the road, hoping that one day we'll have enough tax revenue to pay off the debts. My friends, we are in a precarious position right now in the history of our country where the debt mathematically cannot be repaid. Over the years, the debt has gone far beyond what can ultimately be repaid. And if you think this won't impact you, this is for them to handle and not you, my friends, think again. Let me show you why the current system is broken and ultimately what you can do to protect yourself with your money and your wealth. Now listen, my friends, my name is Ryan D. Lee. I'm a non-traditional financial strategist and I help people break away from the chains of the traditional financial system to create a strategy to achieve wealth no matter what the economic circumstances are. For most people, they are deferring their biggest liability, which is their tax liability. And if we can ever have any semblance of getting back on top of our financial system, taxes, future taxation, things in an IRA will be a major source of doing so. So my friends, I'm here to help protect you from the inevitable outcomes of deferring your taxes to pay for a future debt obligation. So let's get into the dilemma. Here's the problem. The total money supply in the United States right now is sitting around $20 trillion. That sounds like a lot of money, but compare that to the $35 trillion the US government owes on the national debt at this very moment. That's a serious mismatch. The government owes more money than even exists in the system. And it doesn't stop there. Add household debt, including student loans, credit cards, and mortgages, and we're looking at another $17 trillion of debt combined with the total United States debt. If you combine the US debt, personal debt, and then corporate debt and personal liabilities, the total US debt blows well past $50 trillion. But my friends, it gets worse. Globally, we're talking about $65 trillion in hidden dollar-denominated debt. This is debt from banks, governments, and shadow financial systems all over the world. So imagine this, if there's only $20 trillion, all the dollars currently in existence, how did we end up with more than triple the debt than the money even exists to pay it back? So here's the trick. The economic system in our world today is a little bit funny. In fact, it's a system where you can recycle the same dollar to buy multiple things. Every time you deposit $1,000 in a bank, the bank turns around and loans out $900 of the $1,000. And that $900 gets spent and then redeposited elsewhere. Then $800 that was lent out gets loaned out yet again. This process is how the system works. Debt is created out of the same dollars being recycled inside of our economic system over and over and over again. It's a house of cards. For every dollar that exists, many more dollars in debt are created, meaning the amount of debt grows faster than the actual money supply. And you already know what that means. There will never be enough money to pay it all back. Let me say that again and let this sink in. There will never be enough money to pay all of the debt back. If this is true, then the next question should inevitably be, what do you do about this reality? Now, my friends, you can deny it, but that's not going to change the reality. Reality is going to exist whether you accept it or not. The debt problem will impact everyone, whether you contributed to it or not. And when you acknowledge the fact that I just laid out, that there is literally 3 times as much debt than the actual money supply, you realize that we are facing an inevitable problem, a problem that will ultimately collapse at some point in the near future. Let's talk about what has accelerated the debt process so fast before we get into the solution. For the last 40 years, low interest rates have made this system work. By pushing rates lower and lower and lower, debt became cheaper and more affordable to obtain. But rates stayed low for way too long, and the debt problem, it exploded. And with it, inflation has begun to soar. Today in our economy, there's too much fake money chasing a shrinking supply of goods and services. This has driven up the cost of living dramatically. Now the Fed is in a tough spot. They're considering lowering rates yet again to try to stimulate the economy, but ultimately this is going to continue to push up inflation. Now the Fed is in a tough spot. They're considering lowering rates again to try to stimulate the economy. But at the same time, we're dealing dealing with astronomical historical rates of inflation. And while inflation rates have slowed, this doesn't absolve the fact that the cost of living has gone up by almost 20% in the last 4 years. Now it's just a slow, steady inflation on top of a much, much higher cost of living. But here's why high interest rates can't stay high for long unless the United States is ready to face the inevitable debt problem that is on our hands. So my friends, what happens next? Well, we're entering the deleveraging phase of an over-leveraged economy, the point where the economy can no longer afford the debt that it has. There are 4 possible outcomes that we as an economy can face. Outcome number 1, debt jubilee. This is when the debts, they're just forgiven. Just like in ancient times, we're already seeing examples like student loan forgiveness, but it's likely to get much, much bigger. Now that might sound nice, right, to have your debts forgiven, but it violates a universal law of cause and effect. If people don't face the consequences of their financial decisions, the lesson is never learned, and it's bound to be repeated on a larger scale as more people expect their fair share of free money. And on the other side of this, if the debt is forgiven, that means goods and services were literally created by someone else who took the risk, who paid the price, and was never compensated appropriately for the services that were offered. If debts are forgiven, that will decrease the desire for producers to create real services and real goods, knowing that there's a possibility that they might not ever get paid on what they bring to the marketplace. This brings me to potential impact number 2, deflationary deleveraging. As people and companies default on their debt, money, it starts to disappear. The economy contracts, asset prices, they collapse, and we enter a massive deflationary spiral. Imagine your incomes and savings suddenly shrinking. Your purchasing power plummets because there's less money circulating in the economy. Jobs become scarce, investments lose their value, and the debt defaults, they begin to snowball, creating a vicious cycle. You're left holding the bag with less and less and less real wealth to show for all of your efforts. This brings me to potential option number 3, inflationary deleveraging. In this option, the central banks, they decide to print more money to cover their defaults. They try to print their way out of the problem that printing more money created. I don't understand this one, but this causes inflation to massively spike. Your money loses value at a record pace as prices soar. My friends, inflation is a silent tax. It's the tax that you and I have to bear as the Federal Reserve prints more money to solve their irresponsible spending. And as they print more money, the cost of living rises, making it harder for the average person to achieve financial freedom or to even sustain a viable lifestyle. Let's put this into perspective. In the last 4 years alone, the real average weekly earnings are down 4% when you adjust them for inflation. That means in the last 4 years, your income has gone down on average by 4%. But at the very same time that your income is going down, all of the prices necessary for you to maintain that income are going up. Gas prices, they're up 51%. Car insurance, it's up 54%. Rent is up 22%. Groceries are up 22%. Electricity is up 32%. And this is just a few of the economic goods that are required for everyone that I'm listing here. This is the impact of inflationary deleveraging, and it's just getting started. Now, option number 4 is by far the best option, but it puts the responsibility on me and on you to solve the economic problems that are far bigger than what we individually ever created. And this is a productive output boom. It's the least likely scenario, but still a possible scenario. An increase in productivity offsets debt. As Americans rally together, we work harder and we pull the economy through with production, with innovation, with wealth creation. Technology has produced this boom in the early 2000s leading up into 2008, 9, 10, and 11. But the technology boom is starting to level off, and as I mentioned, on top of the technology boom has been the massive printing money. So in order for us to outproduce the economic uncertainty that we're facing, we'd have to find another way to find a massive boom that raises the ship for all of us. And betting on this alone is risky. So my friends, this brings me to the point of this video. How do you protect yourself? So here's where you need to pay attention. The system is broken. The debt will never be repaid. So I'm going to give you the solution right now of how to protect yourself and create real financial freedom in this mess. Now, the solution I'm going to give you sounds counterintuitive based on the problem that I just outlined, but the problem is also the solution. I want you to consider this. Today, our money, the dollars that we have to pay our US taxes in, is debt. If debt is neutral, neither good nor bad, it's how you interact with it that matters. Switch from consumer-driven thinking to producer-driven thinking. A producer creates more value than they consume. And if you use debt productively, it allows you to expand the economy while solving more and more problems in a productive, asset-driven way. So use debt to create value. My friends, the wealthy understand these two truths: that the economic system is broken, that there will be an inevitable collapse and a reckoning for all of the reckless spending that the US economy and US consumers have actually taken on. But the other truth that they understand is that money doesn't actually exist. It's just a piece of paper. It's an economic agreement to transact more efficiently. But what does exist is debt is money. At the end of the day, when you understand this, your goal as a producer is to take as many fake dollars as you can and turn them into real, always in demand assets. This is how you preserve and protect your wealth as economic conditions rise and fall and as the dollar continues to lose value. Don't hold dollars, hold assets. So my friends, this is the reality that we're facing. Debt, it's out of control. The financial system is at a breaking point, and traditional financial advice will not save you. If you want to rise above this, you need to take control over your money, don't hand it over to Wall Street, and do not follow the crowd. The crowd is literally walking one step at a time over the edge of the mountain. If you're ready to start building a system that works for you, subscribe to this channel, join our community, and together we'll break free from this broken system and build real financial freedom. My friends, thank you for joining me on this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Fearless.